All right, here we are with our video for experiment number 8, ionic reactions in 9 test tube unknowns. So I have chosen, we have two possible sets of unknowns we could choose. We could either choose unknowns 1 through 9 or unknowns A through I. So I have the lettered unknowns, so A through I set out here. And I've also set up a grid, which I'll put a picture in the beginning, I think, maybe at the end. I've set up a grid of my unknowns, just like the one on page 2 of your lab report. We've got unknowns. I've got my grid labeled A through H here, and then I through B here. So we're going to go through, and we are going to mix our unknowns together, mixing each unknown with each other unknown, checking for precipitates being formed. So this is a solubility lab, and it definitely being successful in identifying everything properly in this lab hinges on you having completed your pre-lab properly. So in your pre-lab, you were given basically what we're doing and identifying which sets of chemicals or which sets of solutions would form a precipitate. So in front of us, A through I are all clear and colorless solutions. So now we're going to mix them together, and we're going to see which ones form a precipitate, and that will give us hints, like a nice little puzzle, to figuring out what our unknowns are from the list at the front, and where it says materials needed per pair of students. You're going to identify these 9 unknowns. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to take, oops, I bumped my camera. I'm going to take unknown A, and I'm going to add about half a milliliter, about 10 drops of unknown A down this entire first row here. And then I'll go through and I'll add I, H, G, F, E, D, C, and B. Good thing I labeled it because I can't do the alphabet backwards, it turns out. Add about half a milliliter to each one of these test tubes. Oops, make a little bit of a mess. But I always make a mess. So unknown A is a clear, colorless solution. I'm going to go through and add the second solution, and I'll make sure you guys can see it up close and personal. Okay. All right, so my first row has additions of unknown A across the board. All right, so first one here is unknown A and half a milliliter of unknown I. So that's what I'm going to do first. So this is A and I being added to it. Let's see if I can get this so you can see it well. All right, here we go. A and I. Whoop. Go right back. I don't see a whole lot happening. Still clear and colorless. No heat. No nothing. We'll come back and check them all at the end though. All right, so that was A and I. Let's go ahead and add about a half a milliliter to H. So this is A. And I'm going to add H. Whoop. Definitely got precipitate that time, right? We got a white. I have to focus on it better. White, fluffy precipitate. Come on, do it. Camera. Right there, focus on it. It's not focusing on my precipitate, but you can see my 11-year-old in the background, clear as day. Awesome. All right. Anyway, white fluffy precipitate. That's the important part. All right, so that's A and H had a precipitate. Now let's do A and G. So A and G. A and G. Nada. A and F. Yep, we got action. White fluffy precipitate formed. That was A and F. A and F formed a precipitate. So let's do A and E. A and adding E. Nothing. Now let's do A and we're going to add D. A and D. Nothing. A and C. Nothing. A and B. Nothing. That wasn't the most exciting at the end, but just to recap as we look down through here, A and H formed a precipitate, and A and F formed a precipitate. None of the others did. So I'm going to do the same thing now, where I'm going to this next row, I'm going to take B and put B down that next row, and then we'll run through the same process again. So about a half a milliliter of B to each one. I feel like that didn't get a fair amount. Let's get just a little bit more, just to make sure we can see it. Okay, that was B. Down that next column, I suppose we have it oriented. All right, so let's do B. We got B, again, clear and colorless. I'm going to take B, and I'm going to add I to it. This is B and I. No change. Now we're going to do B and H. B and H. Got action. Got ourselves a white fluffy precipitate formed. So B and H formed a precipitate. All right, B and G. Nada. No change. All right, so B and F. B and F. Precipitate. You see it? Definitely got a change there. That was B and F. All right, now so we're on B and E. B and E. No change. B and D. B and D. No change. All right, B and C. B and C. No change. All right, let's see. Let me look down through, see if I can recap. B and H gave me a precipitate, as well as I thought there was another one. Yes, B and F. Mix back together. There we go, B and F. All right, next up, I'll do C down the column. C. All right. C, again, unknown C is clear, colorless. All right, here we go. I. Oh, I was doing that. I want to do it this way. All right. B, or no, we are on C. C and I. No change. C and H. Got action. Precipitate formed, white precipitate. There's a couple of colored ones in here. That'll give us a color change. That'll give you a big hint on what's going on. All right, so C, as great as making my eyes go wonky. C and G, I believe we are on. So C, and I'm going to add G. Ooh, look at that one. It's not fluffy like the other ones. It's definitely just like a milky white type precipitate there. So C and G. All right, next up C and F. Ooh, we got one. C and F. We got ourselves a precipitate. C and F. All right, so now we're on C and E. C and E, no change. And now C and D. No change. C and D is no change. All right, let's see. Double check my recap. Oops, bumped my camera. C and H gave a precipitate. C and G formed that milky precipitate. And C and F. Okay? All right, next row, or next column, excuse me, is D. Okay. All right, so D and I. D and I. D and I. No change. D and H. D and H. No change. D and G. D and G. No change. D and F now. D and F. No change. And D and E. Oh, there we go. I knew we'd get a colored one in here. D and E. I'm not sure that this color change is coming across well on the camera, but we definitely have a color change. It's like a light, pale yellow precipitate formed. So the only one we got action on there was this one here, which was D and E. We got a pale yellow precipitate that was formed. All right. All right, so I am up to filling that one with E. E. shouldn't be super long. It's figuring it all out. Take the time on this one. All right, so E. Got E, and now I'm going to add I. E and I. Milky white precipitate formed. E and H. Ooh, there we go. That is definitely an orangey brown, rusty color. Sorry, I keep moving out of the camera. Orangey brown rust color. This helps at all. No, not really at all. All right. Okay. That was, what was it? E and H give us an orangey brown rust color. All right, so now we're going to do E, and I'm going to add some G. E and add G. No change. E and G results in no change. All right, E and F. We got E. I'm adding F. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Definitely got a nice dark brown. I wanted to say chocolate milk, but that would look like disgusting chocolate milk. We got a brown precipitate formed. All right, so just to recap, E and I, milky white, precipitate, E and H, orangey brown, E and G, no change, E and F, brown. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Closing in on the end already, guys. All right, F. I'm going to go ahead and fill these three. F1, 2, and 3. All right, so I've got F, and I'm going to add I. So F and I. Swirled a little bit, but no change. No precipitate formed. F and H. F and H. No change. F and G. No change. F and G is no change. All right. Adding G to 2 tubes. G gets mixed with I, so I've got G here. Mix it with I. No change. G and H. Got G. I'm adding H. No change. So these no changes are just as useful as your actual precipitates. All right, what do I got left? H and I. Those are the only ones I gotta mix left together to mix. Something like that. All right, so here's H. I'm gonna go ahead and add I. Hi. No change. All right, that is all of my solutions. I have mixed everything with everything else. You can run back through it. Let's see. Let's do that real quick. Just to recap, because it's only a 20-minute lab video, let's look at them all one more time. Let me go ahead and mark it. A, just double check we got it all right. Oops, get my arm out of the camera. That's not very helpful. A and I, no change. A and H, white precipitate. A and G, looks like no change. A and F, definitely had some action there with A and F. Let me zoom it just a little bit. Just kidding, it won't zoom. A, that was A and F, A and E, no change. A and D, nothing. A and C, nothing. A and B, nothing. All right, B and I, got nothing. B and H, definitely got something thick and sludgy in there. So that was B and H. All right, so B and G, looks like nothing. B and F, we got precipitate, white precipitate formed. B and E, no change. B and D, no change. B and C, no change. All right, C and I, no change. C and H, white precipitate. C and G, white precipitate. C and F, white precipitate. A very faint one. There's not a lot going on in there. That might be worth noting. C, that was C and F. C and E, no change. C and D, no change. All right, D and I, no change. D and H, no change. D and G, no change. D and F, no change. D and E, however, yellow. E and I, milky white precipitate. E and H, this one was that orangish brown one. E and G, no change. E and F, brown precipitate. All right, and then F and I was no change. F and H was no change. F and G was no change. G and I was no change. G and H, no change. And H and I, no change. All right, guys, that is the end of the experiment. I'm going to go ahead and perform my waste disposal according to the instructions and put the proper test tubes into their proper waste disposal unit or places. All right, guys, later.